Hello and welcome to. Wait, pause, pause. It's hold on. It's not. We don't have the neon topic overlay. Is this not a neon topic? Are
No,
we
this is
just
a
calling it?
preview. This is
Okay.
going in the preview playlist
Okay.
because this is a game preview. So I was
Sounds
like,
good.
I thought about Neon Topic. I was like, is this a Neon Topic video? And it's like
Yes,
we get
good
lost
call.
in the sauce with that sometimes. But this time I
Sometimes,
was
yeah.
like, well, it's gonna go on the preview thing.
I agree. Great.
It's not like
Great.
topical, quote unquote.
Perfect.
Yes,
Sounds good.
I'm leaving this in.
I know it's all
I'm not
going in.
editing this out.
I love it. Okay. Well, we're here to talk a preview of a very exciting game. That is Elden Ring Nightreign. That's right. We got to participate last week in the network test. We all got codes. Some of us on Xbox, some on PS5. But yes, we're all very excited to talk about it. So without further ado, who am I? I'm Gage Luke, aka Luke Shot First, one of your hosts here on Neon Gaming Dimension and Neon Pocket Dimension. And with me is the producer supreme, the dungeon master himself. That is Jacob Jones.
I
Take it away.
feel like a little weird calling myself the dungeon master while Arturo's here because he's also the dungeon master, and I feel like he has way more dungeon master cred than I do. Like, yes, I've been a dungeon master for a long time, and yes, I like the title of dungeon master, but for tonight, let's not call me that. You can just call me OM Jesus, aka Jacob. What's going on, everyone? How we doing?
Glad to be here talking some of our favorite game and now games of the past couple of years. And with me also is our special guest for tonight. The first of which is the head of BLP Entertainment and streamer extraordinaire. That's James Halliday. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. Thank you. I also am a dungeon master, if you couldn't
Wow.
tell.
Okay,
If
see?
you can't see those
And
books.
I and I also I've been relegated as my local group's permanent DM, so I think we're all we all masters of some kind of dungeon.
I have never mastered a dungeon myself. I have participated in plenty though.
Ah, well there. That's good enough.
Dungeon Master is a title that can be shared amongst many.
Yes,
There you
yes, indeed. Yeah, no. Oh fuck. I can't wait to talk about this game. This was cool. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, he is the Puerto Rican Prince of Cocktails himself, Arturo Tron, Robo Bartender. Glad to have you.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, Arturo Tron Robo Bartender here. Hashtag Real Pro Gamer. Hashtag Kinda Funny Influencer.
Wow.
Yeah, true.
Love it. Uh-oh. There goes my light.
I've been putting captions that are shortening your guys' names. So I had Jimmy over here below me. That's Jimmy, and that's Art over there. What do you guys think?
I also go by Jimmy the Shiv. If that's
Jimmy the Shiv.
Jimmy the
That's
Shiv.
not a joke. That's a real life nickname that somebody has given me.
I was right.
I used to have the nickname. I used to have the nickname Twitch. This is before Twitch was a platform, and it's because I flipped someone off weird once, and they thought I like twitched when I did it, and that just stuck through all of middle school. So there you go.
See, I thought it's because he drank way too much caffeine once.
Well,
Like Tweak.
that used to be like Tweak. That used to be true. I used to own a coffee company, so but that's another story. But yes, we're here to talk Elden Ring Nightreign. The network test was last week. It was 3 sessions, right? It was Valentine's Day was one of them. There was a 3 a.m. session that I participated with in a little bit, and then Valentine's Day evening, which they really knew their audience for that one. And then a Saturday stream, and then 2 Sunday streams, another early ass one on Sunday, and then the evening one, which is the one that we all participated in. Arturo, Jacob, and I were running a squad throughout that whole time. So that was
Hell yeah. That was it. That was the time.
That was it
of my
That's
life.
the good stuff. Exactly. But I'm just going to go down the panel and see what you guys thought overall with your experience. Just a quick little sum up of how you're feeling about this game. Arturo, let's start with you.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I was very satisfied. It hit all the expectations. I was on Xbox, so I didn't have any server issues really for the most part. I know that first early morning Valentine's Day, the PlayStation folks had some issues, but I gamed for like 3.5 hours. Somehow, I was able to game a half hour after the network test was canceled. Um, my one concern was matchmaking because I know that was kind of like FromSoft's weakness when it comes to their multiplayer. That final day it looks like matchmaking worked. I thought it was really fascinating that they really didn't change much mechanically about the combat, but it's like an almost the polar opposite game where in Elden Ring, like most Souls likes from Soft, they're very slow, methodical. You got to be play very cautiously. When this game is so much more frantic, it's go, 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 to the point where I was getting anxiety on our final few runs. I think I was getting on Jacob's nerve because I was like, "Let's go, guys, let's go." And you can't do any like Fran Mirabella 15 minutes in your inventory reading things.
No.
It's really high paced, and I thought it was really, really well done.
I know. I kept wanting to like go and read all of the items that I had to like better understand them, and I was like, wait, no, not time for this. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's good. What about you, James? How are you feeling about this game?
I was really skeptical at first. Like, this doesn't sound like something I would be into. Typically with the Souls games, why I fell in love with them was because I could slowly immerse myself into the world. I can take my time. I can like beat my head against a wall if it was a tough boss. So the idea of like blasting through all of this sort of stuff, like speedrunner style, was a little bit like daunting to me. But after getting my hands on it, I can't believe how enjoyable it was. Yes, the game was frantic, but after a few runs, you started to really understand what you were doing, where you were going. All right, land, fight a mob, level up, find a shrine, extra heals, great. Fight a mini boss, level up, find some loot. Like, it just started becoming like, all right, we know what we're doing. We're running in a group. We're really trying to like work together. And yeah, there's a few times where I was like, I picked up an item, I have no idea what it does, and I'll just check it out in a few minutes. Like when we have some downtime, like let me just process this. And then we'll stop and we'll be like, all right, I've got this item. This is definitely better for the other player, so I'll drop it on the ground in front of them. There's not a great ping system. There is a ping system, but it's a little you have to
It's a
go
little
into the mini map.
It's
You
a
have
little
to click
clunky.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm used to playing games like like Rivals or Apex Legends where the ping system is so like responsive and quick. And this one was, it took me a bit of wrapping my head around it, and half the time I would just drop my pin somewhere randomly, and it was driving me nuts. But
Yeah, I do.
yeah, I
I do
loved
feel
it.
that.
I had so much fun.
Hell yeah. Jacob, I'll punt it to you and then give you my thoughts.
Yeah, it's really like a different take on the game. Obviously, it still sort of plays like it. We'll talk a little bit more about control things and specific things, of course, in a little bit, I'm sure. But there are some very key differences. Like James was saying, like the speed at which this game occurs and you engage with it is 100 times faster than you would be doing. Like you're essentially now a Elden Ring speedrunner playing this game, essentially, which is pretty hilarious when you think about it. But it does give you some options you can't play use in the normal version of Elden Ring. So there's more of a strategy to it in a different way than you would just playing Elden Ring. But what like the when you're digging into Nightreign, you realize like, oh, the controls for Elden Ring are still intact as well. So it really does kind of feel like an evolution of the game, which is something I really like about it. I mean, for one, all the characters have like abilities that aren't like they don't cost FP or what health or what have you. So every character kind of feels different, which is what I really like. Um, in regular Elden Ring, everyone can pick the same different classes, but build into the same exact character over time. Whereas with this, every character pick is you're pick almost like a fighting game. You're picking a different character with different abilities, which is really cool. It's like a novel way to engage with the game. Um, they only gave us 4 to mess around with, which was a lot of fun, and it just adds to the imagination and the wonder of what are these other classes? And I'm sure Arturo will talk a little bit about what is possibly revealed, what we've seen in trailers, what has been kind of talked about a little bit by the devs here and there, what those other classes are. But each class really gives you a different experience with this game, which is a lot of fun. Much like multiplayer shooters, like James was saying with Rivals and stuff, team comp is something to consider now too, which is really interesting. So you're really flexing like a multiplayer gamer type of thing. In you're flexing that part of your brain that you don't normally do, even when playing multiplayer Elden Ring. So that's, to me, is a lot of fun. And just like James was saying, like, you don't have time to think too much. I mean, the more you play it, the more I was kind of like, all right, I have a sec to pull up the map, and I became like our navigator. And after you beat a boss, you have a sec to like, gain your footing and finally look at your gear and be like, oh shit, I have this really good weapon. Why am I not using it? And stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. So, like, I didn't want to say this is like a battle royale, because that's not how it was really talked about by the previewers from the publications like IGN and stuff. But it really is like that in a lot of ways. You're kind of dropped in a spot and you're going to run, try to come up with the best route to like gear up, and you know what I mean? You're doing similar things. So it's just like a really interesting way to recontextualize the From Software formula, which I really like. And it's just fresh enough to make us to, hunger for more. Like every From Software game you play, of course, you're like, fuck, I want to play more. I want to play more. But in this way, the possibilities feel a little bit endless, because of the replayability of like a multiplayer game versus like just playing multiplayer in a From game. And so the fact that they've accomplished that, it to me is awesome. The only problem is we still have a weird multiplayer system. You know what I mean? We still got to put like passwords or some shit in, and not just like like group up in a hub, and you know what I mean? So these things this is still a From Software game. Don't get me wrong. It's just very much something else, something they haven't ever done. And to me, I think that's a triumph, and I'm really excited for this game to come out.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, I think when we first saw this game at the Game Awards revealed, we're all kind of like, whoa, another Elden Ring game, and it's a separate SKU. And, then we got some details about it, and I think all of us kind of collectively went, like, what's happening? Like, are they really doing that? Like, are they getting sucked into, the very volatile space that we've seen so many like amazing single player focused studios get sucked into, chasing the the games as a service or the multiplayer kind of whatever, whether it's battle royale or extraction shooter or stuff like that. And so I think we all kind of had this little nervousness when we saw it, but then what our faith in From Software and their dedication to doing right by their IP and doing right by their platforms, I think has shown in this network test. I think it remains to be seen how the full launch of this game comes out, but I do think that seeing this, it's like, no. They just looked at the community, looked at the way that the community was playing Elden Ring, modding Elden Ring, playing multiplayer sessions, doing full multiplayer things of the game, the seamless multiplayer mod that was out there that Miyazaki said he was aware of, and the every boss is, or every enemy is Melania, randomizers and things like that. And they just said like, okay, we can do that, and we can do that in a legitimate way and make this fun. And I heard someone say it feels kind of like a game jam version of Elden Ring. Like, okay, use the assets of Elden Ring and like see what you can do with it. You know what I mean? That and find some fun somewhere. And this feels like a direction that could go. And so yeah, I'm really enticed by it, and I think that if there's anyone we can have faith in to do right by this type of property, it's FromSoft. And I just love the idea that this is the gameplay and the world of Elden Ring mixed with like a Slay the Spire or Rogue Legacy style roguelite kind of thing, where you're taking aspects of your victories or your runs into further runs, or you're getting randomized builds that you're just having to like go with or test out, so much of Elden Ring was so fun to experiment with weapons, and for a section of the game you got really into this thing and you're like, maybe this is my build, but then something else pulls you a different way. But that game is so long that there are times where you're like, I kind of need to stick to a build and commit to it, and in order to like be at the right space to take on the big end game bosses that you hit in that game. And I was always kind of wanting an outlet to be like, okay, but it'd be fun to just be at the level I'm at, but also use these other weapons that I never use and stuff like that. So this, I think, is going to be a great opportunity to do those types of things. So commit to builds you wouldn't usually. Yeah, hell yeah,
Yeah.
man.
And that was a really smart integration of that concept, because even within the 4 classes that we played, and potentially the 4 that they haven't announced yet, even when those classes, you could play different wilder builds based on the random
Totally.
loot drops.
Yeah.
And then also, we haven't talked about the relics, which are things that you earn at the end of each run. And depending on how far you go, the stronger the relic is. And you slot these in, and there's different colors, different classes specify different colors. But those relics potentially do things like they give you bleed status, they give you faith damage. So even within that is some strategic. So you might pick some relics for one run, and then you drop in, and then you find no loot that you don't build on those. And there was at least one thing they've said about the aspects of it as a games of service is the idea that they're not interested in traditional games of service monetization. So
Totally,
right
yeah.
now, the only thing that's announced is you do earn marks at the end of every run, and those marks can be used as an in-game currency that you can use to buy other relics inside Roundtable Hold, which is the hub area,
Cool.
and then cosmetics, including gestures and skins.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so when they talk about new bosses that are going to drop as DLC, new areas, I think this is going to be free content on along the lines of things that come free with seasonal passes. It's what it seems like they're going for.
Yeah, I
Other
found
things that they go ahead.
sorry, real fast. I found a post of theirs, or actually I think they sent it to you after the network test. That was like a pre-order like link, you know what I mean? And in that there was like something with your pre-order, you get like a gesture and a skin, I think. So I was like, okay, cool. That gave me a breath of fresh air. Was like, it's just gonna be cosmetic stuff, and then you said the in-game currency, and then maybe money can buy other relics and stuff like that. And that's honestly cool with me, because like at the most, like those relics are probably going to be the same relics you could potentially earn in game, right? So it's like maybe you're just not wanting to grind for them or get a random drop of it, and so I'm like, that's fine with me. Like it's nothing egregious, like you said. Like I don't think we're going to be buying bosses or buying new areas of Limfeld or whatever. So
No, definitely not. I don't think there will be any in-app purchases at all. Like except
yeah, it's
for
a $40
whatever,
game. It's yeah,
you
totally.
know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure that so when I mean, even in the network test, we didn't have clearly all the systems available to us. Obviously, it's like a beta network test, whatever. But you are getting currency for every run, and so of course you're like, what is that currency for? But you're getting it at the same time as you're getting the relics, which, like they were just saying, something you can equip that's persistent, and you can get different ones that might be better, might fit the build that you're trying to go for per character. But I think that currency is gonna buy more than just those relics. Like, I mean, I could see, like certain prices on colors of outfits or some shit like that. I mean,
Well,
Come
they
on.
have announced gestures and skins that you can buy
Yeah.
within the in-game currency.
Which
Yeah,
I'm
there you go.
hyped about, because I am admittedly in the like RPG space, and I know this is no longer really an RPG in the same way, but I do really like playing Fashion Souls and like customizing my character. And I was a little bummed that you weren't picking up armor as well as things, but I do think that the simplification of just level up your class, and they level it up for you how you want, and there's no armor like boost, or you know what I mean, like it's probably better for the simplification of the gameplay and the way how fast paced and how much you're already juggling in this game, that it's probably best that you're not having to go in and be like, what fucking armor do I want to pair with my it's like I do think that was probably a good call, but nevertheless, let me look the way I want, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I do.
Thinking
I do
about
think
how
that there was a network test, so they really simplified what we played, and I think there's a lot of systems that we haven't seen yet, and I think there's going to be a lot of customizationable stuff that's not stat driven the way like armor would
Totally.
be, but like completely cosmetic.
It
Yeah.
felt like there was spaces in the kind of dilapidated roundtable hold that we were in, where there was like several areas that seemed like they were going to open up, that they obviously had blocked off for us, which is cool. With that, let's transition in. I want to look at the 4 classes that they did give us, and we can kind of talk about our experiences with those and what we know about those characters. So the Wilder is kind of an all-around class character, kind of a strength dex kind of classic, maybe classic play style.
Yeah.
in Elden Ring, can wield
Quality.
bigger, like heavier, gnarly weapons, but also, I mean, anyone can wield any weapon in this game, right? It seems like,
Yeah.
But it feels like this is leaning more towards kind of a classic hack and slash player. Has some really cool abilities. The left or we'll call it the left.
Yeah, we can call it ability 1, if you
ability
will.
1, and yeah, sure.
Yeah, or
like
the
the
left.
LT.
Let's call it a unique and then an ultimate for the right.
Yeah.
if that works.
Pretty much.
Unique and ultimate.
There you go. So yeah, their unique is this grappling hook thing that if it's a smaller enemy, you'll pull them to you, and if it's a bigger boss enemy, you'll pull yourself towards them. But then you can also do this really sick looking thing where when you're running along, you can shoot it at the ground and it like kind of skateboards you like up a little ways. It's a cool little like quick step vibe.
Yeah.
And then their ultimate is this big like arm cannon thing that shoots out a big old fire blast, which is pretty cool. Did everyone get the chance to play Wilder? I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
That's-
The Wilder was such a great class to just, because it could do everything, you could really experiment with so much with it.
Totally.
I found that if my favorite class was taken, the Wilder was like a quick say, all right, I'll just jump into Wilder because I can fill whatever role I need to be with that class. I did find that sort of close range explosion. It had such a long build up time that I often had a hard time landing the hits unless it was like a really big enemy and I was basically underneath.
Especially on fucking Margit the Fell. He was
Yes, my God.
would always dodge out of that way for me. Like
Yeah.
I hit him maybe once with it the whole time we played.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there are certain enemies in Elden Ring that like do read your attacks, and when you attack, they dodge. And I'm pretty sure the Fell Omen, as they call him, it's just Margit. I'm pretty sure he's reading your attacks, and I did notice. We'll talk about the spellcaster character a little bit later. That one of the spells was the I forget the name of the actual spell, but it's like the regular bolt, but it's the hidden one. So in Elden Ring, like the enemies that would normally dodge spells can't see it, so they don't move. And so
not the glintstone, but like the shadow glintstone.
I'm forgetting. I'm blanking on the name right now. So, but yeah, it's interesting that like systems like that definitely carry over. And same with Margit. Every time I tried to use Wilder's ultimate, he would dodge out of the way right at the last second. I'm like, that's slippery motherfucker.
Wilder is that jack of all trades, incredibly flexible character where you can go any way. But I did find that with that special, I had to wait until Margit was stationary and committed, and I could time it pretty well.
Nice.
But it is like you have to use it very strategically, otherwise you wasted that power.
Yeah, and it's got a pretty darn long cooldown. So it's like the type of thing where when we get to Night 2's boss down in the water area there, when we fought those 2 omens, I would immediately use it on one of the omens because it would take that long, the entirety of that omen fight, for it to recharge to get back for the Margit part or whatever. Did you guys ever experience a different boss there on Night 2? Because I didn't. So
when I played through, I would experience 2 different day 1 bosses and
Definitely.
2 different day 2 bosses.
Yeah,
and
same.
I got 2 day 1s, but I never got the second 2.
Oh, you don't want that one.
Water. Yeah, no, the second 2 is way worse.
Way worse.
If you go to the water, you would fight the Fell Omen, which is Margit.
Mhm.
But if you go to the forest,
The Nameless King.
you fight the Draconic Tree Sentinel
Yeah.
Oh,
and
damn.
2 cavalry knights.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's
and it's a
brutal.
bitch.
It was brutal.
It's really tough.
So in the regular Elden Ring, the Draconic Tree Sentinel that's right before Malekith in the Farum Azula, that the fucking, for whatever reason, I don't know why, that Tree Sentinel took me longer than the fucking Malekith itself. And it was just because of whatever build I was using for my first run through, but I just remember them being a real tough son of a bitch.
Well,
Yeah.
something to talk about Margaret is that he's the Batman of the Elden Ring universe, which is probably how you can read your moves. But also, sometimes he's a day 2 boss. Sometimes he's just a vigilante that just pops up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Jacob in chat and the Discord, you mentioned the Butcher from Diablo 4.
Yeah,
That's very much
he's very
where he
much
just kinda-
like he's giving off Butcher vibes from Diablo for sure. Yeah, which is hilarious. He needs a hook. You know, if you're gonna make a guy just jump you, why does he not have a hook? I'm just saying.
Right.
I think because he can actually literally jump you. Like he's really
You're
good
right.
at jumping on top of
He
you.
is way more agile than the Butcher is. That's true.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a Mr. X too from
Yeah,
Resident Evil.
having it, that is an interesting feature. Like having having the boss like randomly engage you in the world on day 2. Like you'll be checking out. I remember checking out a like in like a keep. There's like a small like tower, and I went inside. I opened up a treasure chest, and I saw his glowing rune on the ground while I was in there. And I was freaking. I was like,
Whoa.
"Shit! Oh my god!" And
Whoa.
I backed out. He appeared inside that room, and he couldn't actually get out.
Oh, nice.
Me
That's
and
hilarious.
my
awesome.
team just kept hitting him
Did you
from
just
just
cheese
a
him?
little bit
That's
of range.
great.
A little
That's
bit.
what's up.
He eventually, because we pulled him too far away, like we moved too far away from the tower, he teleported to us. Because if you leave him at any time, if you jump up, grab a hawk, fly across the map, when you land, he's waiting for you and he's ready. So
Damn.
you cannot escape him. If you look at your map, your whole map is turned red, and there's like a big ring of
Whoa.
his area
Damn.
of effect, and like the ring of the map is usually inside that ring.
Inside
So
that.
you're like, I'm running, I'm trying to get out of the ring, I'm trying to fight a boss at the same time. It was
Crazy.
awesome. It was probably one of the coolest experiences
That's great.
playing that game. And if they switch it up, if they put in different bosses, have them like hunt you down, I think this is gonna be real special.
Word. I do want to talk more about kind of world events in a second, but let's get through these other classes real quick.
Yeah.
The next one, the Recluse.
Noble
Guardian.
Guardian. That's not correct.
Guardian.
Guardian's next.
That's
Psych.
I'm going by the actual website.
Please, absolutely, no problem. Guardian, cool. So this guy is the tank of the group for sure. That we have, at least as the 4 that we had this time. Cool bird, dude. Let me be this fucking guy in regular Elden Ring. Come on, man. I wonder if he has anything to do with the Stormhawks, in as far as just lore goes. I know this game isn't about the lore, but I still like to think,
There is lore though. What is known is that this game takes place before the Fracture War.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that this reality splits from the main reality after the Fracture War. So it sounds like there will be a little bit of lore on these individual classes
Nice.
that are either found in Round Table Hold or out in the game.
And we know with
cool.
we know with the Elden Ring lore, sorry, real fast, that we have like people from the Land of Reeds and like, which might be Sekiro, but like, you know, or like different people that we still haven't heard of or haven't like necessarily interacted with all that many in the actual Elden Ring game. So I like that there's an idea of like other species that we're seeing or things like that. So that's cool.
Yeah, and a lot of these species were wiped out during the Fracture War and later. So it's nice to see some, because we're getting like, you know, before everything went to shit in terms of lore. This guy's cool because it's more of a sword and shield tank, though you can go like two-handed weapon. I normally don't do tanks in games, whether it's solo or multiplayer, but it seems like I had the most. I mean, the one time I beat the Fell Lord, because I'm a real pro gamer, trademark pending. It was when I was playing the Guardian. Definitely very. I mean, it also helped that we got to level 14 and could take some hits.
Nice.
But I like his ultimate ability. We had that kind of like he flies up and then lands. I had some issues. I couldn't understand how his unique ability worked. If anyone can help me with that one, though.
I kept trying to explain it to you, but you were too high to fucking hear anything I had to say. I just kept explaining. And Gage, you guys didn't understand that you press and hold both of the Okay, to use an ability in Elden Ring Nightreign, they're called skills, by the way. I looked it up. See, look right here: skill, whirlwind; skill, wings of salvation. But like you said, unique skill for the Guardian is the spinny move. It either pushes enemies back if they're big, or knocks them up in the air. Yeah. But his ultimate, what it does, and no, his whirlwind ability does not block at all, so you can get hit while using it. But when you use his ultimate, he is invincible for a sec. If you press so to activate any of these abilities, I don't think you can be running like with the left stick in, because there's two different ways to run. There's the normal way where you hold in B or circle if you're on PlayStation to run normal, and it's a little faster. But if you click the left stick in now in this game, you haul ass. But it eats up a lot of your stamina, so you don't want to overuse it. And especially when you're in combat, you want to try not to use it that much at all, because that's how you conserve your stamina. But I digress. To use any of these abilities, you either hold Y or triangle, and then you press left trigger for your unique ability, or right trigger for your ultimate. For Guardian, if you press and hold all of the buttons and don't let go of them at all, he'll fly up. He'll keep flying up. And then he'll drop on the ground, and then he'll assume like a defensive position. And he creates this AoE effect that sparkles. And everyone standing in there cannot take damage from anything.
The only way I was able to get that to work was if I, up in the air, released right trigger and then pressed it again.
No.
That's the only way I ever got it to work.
So you're still just you're not understanding. You just press and hold everything the whole time.
I tried that.
I did it every well, then you need a new controller.
I do.
Either that or you're not holding the trigger hard enough. Hold it harder.
Yeah, what happens is sometimes when I'm triggering the special actions or the skills, what will happen is either it won't register right away, or it will he'll go into a strong attack instead of doing the action. And the other aspect of it is, even if I'm holding it, nothing triggers until I release it.
It's because
then he goes into it.
You guys are clicking the left stick in to run too much. Again, if you click that left stick in, it fucks with the abilities. So if you don't just can always run all the time. If you run, you can run with B or circle just fine. It won't fuck up the abilities.
Interesting. Okay.
So your left stick in is a movement ability run. That's what people are just clicking it in because, like every other game, that's how you run. But in this game, when you're in combat, you shouldn't use that run as much because it eats up half of your stamina bar immediately.
Yeah. Interesting. So that
it fucks with your abilities as well. Your skills.
So if that's the case, then it's kind of like in Elden Ring when you're gonna do a critical hit, right? You have to not be moving, like that kind of thing. So that makes sense. It's kind of a similar. It's kind of a similar aspect to that.
That's why I think it was.
That's definitely why. That's definitely why it's fucking up. Then.
A little tip for you gamers out there who are going to be trying this game for the first time. Just trying to help you.
Also, it's not hitting both buttons at once. You have to hold down Y.
That too.
And then press one of your triggers.
Pro gamer. Totally. What was that? Real pro gamer trademark.
Trademark pending.
Thank you.
Either way, I only played the Guardian one time, so I didn't get a whole lot of testing on it. But
really fun.
I'll get it down. I did really like him actually. I also am not much of a tank guy usually in games, but the one thing I needed to work on with him was and maybe Jacob, you can explain this better because you explained it good when we were playing.
Yeah.
But there's a way that there's a block kind of dodge combo that ups his I want to say poise a lot. Which is cool, but I didn't quite figure out the best way to use it, and therefore it was kind of fucking up my rhythm a few times.
Yeah.
But do you know how that works?
Yeah. So again, it's like another really weird thing with him. So what I think happens in the game mechanics is that it ups your poise, but it also ups your shield's guard boost too. And
cool.
The higher the guard boost, the less damage to your stamina a block does normally. And it also, I think, even brings up your damage reduction. So like normally when you're playing Elden Ring and you're holding block, right, you could just dodge all you want. It's not going to hurt anything, right? But with this guy, his passive ability is while you're blocking, holding either L1 or LB based on what platform you're playing. If you dodge while doing that, he goes into like, I think it's called Steel Resolve or something. And he does this, right? Like normally he's blocking, right? And you press that and he does this. Really like, puts his
really
ass
gets
into
in there. Yeah, totally.
And his like feathers, and his feathers go up. I almost knocked over my mic. His feathers kind of go up a little, and he's like really in it. And then when you're doing that, you move at like 3 times slower, and he's kind of inching forward. But like it really bumps up his, like I said, his guard boost, his poise, and I feel like also damage reduction because I took like a straight up fire from the centipede demon. And it normally would knock me back. I wouldn't take as much damage, but here I just blocked it, and it took like some stamina off. And I was like, holy shit. But it is very disorienting. So like I was explaining earlier, that's an interesting thing about this game is that each character really is different than the original game. Like they have some very unique abilities that changes the gameplay in ways that the regular Elden Ring won't give you at all. Which is really cool.
Yeah,
like
also
even
got
if
a
you're
really
wild,
incredible ability that allows you to pick up your allies. Like his second ability or his first ability, the one where he dives up into the air and slams down, gives you a defense AOE. That if you do that on fallen allies, which normally you'd have to spend like at times attacking them and getting them off the ground, and if you're targeting, it's a nightmare. You have to untarget and then focus your ally because otherwise you start snapping back to the enemy. And it's a pain in the ass. It takes a long time and you're vulnerable. But the Guardian can use his ultimate to drop down and raise up both of his allies if they've been knocked down. And it's such a lifesaver.
That's really cool. I didn't even think about that usage of it. That's cool.
Yeah, I think that.
But back to what Jacob was saying about how each class is incredibly unique. That means that you can have a Wilder and a Guardian with very similar builds and weapons, but they're still going to play drastically differently because of those special skills and
100%.
the way they have small little differences on like how they block, how they dodge, things like that, which is very, very smart because it adds to the replayability of the game.
Well, and even the one run I if moving on, I don't know if this is the next person. If I am, I'm lucky. I did a Duchess run where we hit that one little chapel that had
we'll do Duchess next.
Sure. I had a Duchess run where we stopped at that one little spot where you get what are the things you hold in your hand that allow you to cast faith spells? Why can't I remember
the seal.
Seal. I was gonna say like talisman.
Finger
Yeah.
seal.
Talisman.
Where we got seals, and my seal happened to come with a really good lightning spell. And there is 2 different. When you get the seals in this game, they work a little bit different. There's a spell on your left bumper, and there's a spell on your left trigger. So my the one that I picked up, the left trigger was like you do like a lightning bolt that then shows up where the enemy is, like auto targets to them and hits them. And then the quick attack, I guess you want to call it, on that was just like a blast that like shot enemies backwards. And so then my run with the Duchess essentially became a faith caster run, and I just had like a short sword or like a curved sword in my right hand, and I was just doing spells. And then later that in that same run, I found like a fire spell. Anyways, it was really cool. And like again, so it just made it like this kind of agile mage build, which was super unique. And because every other time I played her, I was using like quick dex weapons or katanas sometimes, and it was amazing. So
like
Duchess was my bread and butter when I played. Like I thought I would be more of a Guardian player because I typically play heavy, big weapons, heavy armor. But man, I played the Duchess once and fell in love with her. She's She's quick. She's clearly an homage to Bloodborne.
Bloodborne, yeah.
She's fast. She's nimble. She's got all of her abilities are really like interesting. Like the first one, like her big one is like she turns the team invisible or like into stealth mode, so it kind of like lets you turn off like the enemy aggro a little bit.
Yep.
But second one is where I really like fell in love with her, because you do a lot of fast, quick attacks, and then you would trigger her secondary ability, and it would basically the enemy takes all of that damage again from like another like just the same round of it. But what was interesting was you would build her up for like bleed damage, right? And then she would do a bunch of damage, trigger the bleed, and then you do it again, and the enemy would take that all over again. And it was just such a satisfying feeling. Her big like offset for her speed and agility is the fact that she has no health.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. Especially at the beginning, those first couple levels, you're like so
my God.
vulnerable.
Recluse has
Yeah.
even less.
Yeah,
Really.
She was both of my wins, like where I completed my run. I was playing a Duchess both times, and she just clicked with me in a way that I was not prepared for, because Bloodborne is my favorite out of the Souls games, but I would never say I was really good at Bloodborne. For some reason, the Duchess just works in this environment with these enemies. Like her ability to like double dodge or make an attack and then like get out of there really quickly was really cool.
Just quick thing about Bloodborne. The way to get good at that game is just mastering that like pistol counter. Just practicing a little bit and kind of understanding like the timing of it opens up your gameplay, and that's probably the only thing you needed to learn to be like to destroy that game, to rip that game a fucking new asshole.
I believe I have the platinum on Bloodborne.
No, that's good. So then you are good.
I would just say that I would never consider myself a really good player. Any of these Souls games, I beat them through attrition.
Look,
like,
man, if you're gonna compare yourself to the people who like beat the game with like a fucking Guitar Hero controller, that's bullshit. No. Like, if you are platinuming Bloodborne, you're good at Bloodborne. You should take that.
Well,
but I'm just saying the pistol counter is the bread and butter.
It's great. I thought that game was
I love that
the
game.
best for a reason.
I love horror, so
I love the mechanic of being able to get some health back if you attack quickly on the thing too. I really love that element of it. Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, let's get through to the Duchess and then just do a quick little speculation about what
you mean the Recluse.
Don't forget Recluse. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. About maybe what we think, either just our own opinions on some room for other types of builds, or anything that we think might come along the way. But yeah, Jacob, you were rocking it at the Recluse, and that was really cool to see, because this is a little bit more of a complex character, it seems like.
Well, you know me. I play games on hard. I like difficult builds, stuff like that. The second time I beat Elden Ring was as a caster, so of course I was like, yeah, we gotta fuck around with the Recluse. So real quick, touching upon something you were just talking about earlier, with the incantation seal, whatever. The same with the staves. What's interesting about this game is that it's kind of much like a normal weapon would have a light and a heavy. Any spellcasting item in this game has a light and a heavy.
Cool.
So regardless if you're putting it in your left hand, which with your left hand, of course, LB, LT, or L1, L2 would be your two spells. But if you're going to equip it in your right hand, your right trigger is going to do something different typically, depending on where you're equipping something else in your other hand. So like, I would find really good staves that would do really good spells, but to use the second spell, I'd have to two-hand it. So, again, like, just even that is a little complicated. But at the same time, like, if you just spend a little bit of time playing around with the class, it's not so bad. The big complaint that the Recluse has, going over her skills, first of all, she has this ability called Magic Cocktail. Now, when you play Elden Ring, or From Software games, and you cast magic, you only have so many spells. Obviously, you have like MP, they call it FP in these games. Once you run out, typically you have a flask that you can drink to get your MP back, FP back. Not in this game. There's just a health flask. You can't change that. So of course they had to figure out a way to allow a spellcaster to exist. So there are like spots in the game where you can like, replenish your FP immediately, like these trees that are kind of around. But though, you can't depend on those. So her normal like unique ability, which is the L1 or the LT or the L2, the unique as we've been calling it.
Yeah.
It's called Magic Cocktail. It's a really interesting ability. So you have there's no cooldown on it, first of all, right? Because you need to be able to like always get your MP back so you can constantly be casting spells. Every time that you use it, if there's enemies around you that are susceptible to this ability, you will drain a small amount of FP back, usually enough for about one spell, or if the spell cost is kind of low, it could be about 2 or 3, right? Once you run out again, you could drain again. And that's kind of the rotation, is you're casting spell, drain, spell, drain. You have these 3 spheres around that ability that begin to fill up with these colors. Now, I don't know how to guess what colors go in there, or it's a color and an icon, but you're really thinking color because, again, like we talked about, you don't have that long to think about this shit. You're like hurrying up. You know what I mean?
The way it describes it is you're collecting the affinity residues of different enemy targets, and then using an affinity exploiting magic cocktail. So right. I think that might have to do with like what type of enemy they are. You know what I mean? Is going to give you different types of affinities.
Correct, and I feel like I feel like that's right. But also, I've drained 2 different affinities from one bigger enemy before.
Interesting.
So it's a little crazy and it's a little all over the place. But the point is, as you fill these spheres up with these different affinities, which are again they're just colors, then you use the ability again, which is now a free kind of spell that does damage or something, depending on the 3 things that are in the slots. I've had black holes explode. I've had fire rain down and set the enemy ablaze. I've had like just a normal kind of like magic blast happen. I've had a healing circle appear on the floor. Yeah. I've even had essentially like a magic buff appear on your character. So it's like not only are you casting these spells, you're draining mana, you're casting, you're filling this thing up, then you're doing a free explosion of some kind, essentially, and then you could use it again to drain more mana, fill up another circle, and then you're casting spells again. And that's sort of the rotation of the Recluse.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So it's a lot of fun. And then, of course, she also has an ultimate, and her ultimate's pretty cool. What it does is no matter the distance, as long as there's enemies around you, they all get hit by it. And while it's in effect, anyone who hits it gets health and mana back for every attack. So that's really helpful. But again, squishy, even squishier, like dies even faster than the Duchess. A lot of work to get this character rolling, but at the same time, like when you're rolling, dude, you're casting spells. Like I even got the spell that shoots like the Kamehameha blast essentially once in a run. As long as you go to the towers and solve the puzzle really quick, you can just clamber your way all the way up and then pick up like a badass staff with crazy spells. So it's a lot of fun, but again, a lot of work. We're about to talk about this, but I'm just with this magic character. I'm curious. Are we gonna have an incantation character that's sort of the mirror?
Sure.
What's that? Like some sort of cleric, and then even more so with that, we have dragon sorceries, right? I've even found a sorcery in one of the seals one time. And then what else? Like you were saying, Arturo, is there going to be a summoner? Which will be even crazier.
I think the studio has said something about ashes. So I actually have a couple things lined up for what the 4 classes might be. I have our buddy Pandafin put some stuff together in our Elden 3 Discord, and he has an assumption about a archer style character, which we have seen mention of a character named Iron Eye. which might be possible. He also thought there was maybe another tanky character that was more like a heavy unga bunga, like big club wielding guy, which in the wiki they say a mighty horned hero with great strength. Who might be able to create a rock pillar and either jump from it as seen in the trailer or shoot projectiles from the top of it. I'm thinking maybe one of those Omenborn that are either underneath the big castle in Elden Ring or maybe one of the people that lived in the Shadow World. Anathan thought there might be a knight style character, though on the wiki they're saying that there's a katana wielding looking character
Yeah,
that
there
might
is.
have a deflection system reminiscent of deflecting hard tier, or more of a, if the Duchess is very Bloodborne, this character will be very Sekiro
Sekiro, yeah.
inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then definitely someone that does summons, and maybe you're picking up different summon abilities as you're going through the game.
Damn, that'd be really cool.
Though Pandafin, he thinks it might be a dual wielder DPS. The wiki is saying it might be more of a summoner, and I think that makes sense because then we get another melee character like the Wilder. We'd get another tank character from the Guardian, another Dex character but long range like the Duchess, and another mage character. So that gives you a little bit of symmetry, but gives you a little bit of spread on what type of characters you can get.
Yeah, Jacob, that looks like the pillar one that we're talking about.
This
so
is the
like
big
maybe
guy.
the real big guy, the big old heavy, like, some kind of big hammer wielding motherfucker.
Yeah, and then this is the apparent katana person, which if
Yeah.
you're looking at him, he doesn't look like a samurai. He looks kind of fucked up. Like he's like almost like a
got a bit of
what is it,
a Titan, look.
almost like a Hellraiser style, like Cenobite type.
I was gonna say,
creature.
I was gonna say like the naked Titan, like the naked Titan or the armored Titan in
Attack
on Titan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I see it. That's awesome.
Like, what's her name? The blonde one.
And there's
the
this
image
one.
I have pulled up on the wiki shows that deflection character with a long ass Naigatana. But I think what
That's
I meant by samurai, like that's Sekiro deflection.
No, yeah, I get that, but
in one of the other in one of the other screenshots at the very beginning of that article, there is her rushing in with the wielder who just did his ultimate, obviously, and she seems to be there with some kind of katana, like the maybe the blood katana or something. But yeah, I'm assuming
all of these sort of weapons exist within like the game, right? So
of course,
obviously these builds will have different. Did you guys spend any time in the practice range?
A little bit.
So
yeah.
If you go into the practice range while I was waiting for some people to join up with me on the second, we didn't have a couple days. We didn't have the matchmaking, but on the day we did have matchmaking, I was waiting for Pandafin because we did play through a couple runs together. But while waiting for him, I had messed around in the practice range and started going through the equipment. So there's a chest in there that lets you go through all the equipment in the game, and you can see all of the added power-ups to the weapons.
That's really cool.
And I found stuff like with dragon spells. I found stuff with the frenzy spells, and so I'm seeing that all of that sort of stuff's in the game, like the incantations, the sorceries, and stuff like that. You can find it in the world. I remember finding the Death Assassin's knives, and I remember running the Duchess with one of those knives, and it's like everything you think you can find in Elden Ring. It's gonna be in this game. It's gonna have Pandafin found the River of Knives, River of Blood katana, and so there's named weapons that are going to make an appearance. So even if you we don't get an exact samurai build, you could still be a Duchess or a Wilder with those weapons, and they're going to be just as effective.
Yeah, I definitely do think they're bringing in archetypes of different types of builds.
Yeah,
totally. An archer makes sense, one that monopolizes on range. I do think while I would personally love one that is incantation based, I can see that one also being left out in lieu of somebody who's more ashes and summoning based.
That'll
Yeah,
be
we'll
really
see.
interesting.
Yeah, it will. I also think with the archer guy specifically, uh, Elden Ring archery, in my opinion, is really fucking clunky. It'd be interesting if their abilities are more like, like the unique being like some sort of quick shot type of thing that has a really like low cooldown, and then maybe the ultimate being something more like a heavy type of shot or something like that. You know what I mean?
Shoot
Whatever,
like
whatever.
a dozen arrows into the sky and they rain down on the enemy.
Exactly,
I
something
was
like
gonna
that.
say Arrow Storm, or maybe
Yeah.
he'll like slide down a shield and kill an orc like Legolas.
Arrow
Or,
storm.
or Felon Oliphant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So this is one of the trailers that seems to
yeah.
show a
This is the
couple
first
other
trailer.
potential.
I'm
Yeah.
trying
Yeah, it seems to
to
show a couple other.
Okay, who's that
people.
second guy?
So,
That guy who looks like a giant goat.
real
So
quick.
that's the other tank. That's the heavy Unga Bunga looking guy.
Unga Bunga,
Unga
gotcha.
bunga.
So, real
We're
quick,
calling him official term.
No, so that's a Souls-like term for if you do a heavy tank that uses a big old weapon, usually a
Yeah.
club or hammer.
Unga
That's
Bunga,
Unga Bunga.
big
No,
hammer.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
That's like my character in Avowed right now, but we're not talking about that game right now. No,
That'll be next week.
that'll be next week.
Yeah.
No, there was a screenshot that Pandafin sent to me, and I'm trying to find it right now, so that's why I'm putting play these trailers. But he said there's an archer character that was wearing Drake armor, and this is the archer character that they were showing
Not
on
like
that
us.
page. That is not someone playing or wearing Drake armor, so I find this to be very interesting. Remember, there are 8 or 4 other characters, and we're really only seeing like 3 potentially here, so that really gets me wondering about this, you know.
Yeah, the only character we haven't seen is the summoner character we're assuming that they mentioned about Lausches.
Unless this is the summoner character and the Drake guy is an archer and it's different.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Exactly, that's the thing. Anyway, continue.
And also there's the idea, will they be adding more than those initial 8 classes?
Oh,
If you
yeah.
think about it, throughout all of the Souls games, you have all these different builds that players have created. So FromSoft can really go into the community and take ideas from all these different things people have done, and the sky's the limit. Like, the question is it just going to be the static 8, or are we going to get something like Marvel Rivals, where like every few months we get a brand new class on top?
I'm pretty sure there's already been a dev interview where they've talked about, like, yes, we are planning on adding more in the future.
Also, something I just realized, there's the Gonzo looking motherfucker.
This guy
that's in the Discord. Yeah, is that the Drake guy?
No, this is big guy.
Yeah,
with the dragon goat horn helmet.
That's the Unga Bunga Knight, as
this
I call
is
him.
Me. You're looking at me right now.
In the Elden 3 chat, we have a picture of it looks like a Gonzo looking guy that's doing a sort of like, looks like holy magic. So maybe that's gonna be the summoner.
Dude, what the fuck is happening in this clip? Hold on.
I do think we need a holy magic person. Yeah. Whoa, this is cool.
Hold on. What is this?
We've got a downed guy.
He blows up into the air. What?
That's a different clip.
It's the same clip. Look, he's fighting the same guy in the same spot.
So it looks like you can raise a pillar and then jump from the pillar. Yeah,
that's
and then
so
it's like
sick.
a
pillar attack.
Dude, that's
it's basically a slam attack for all intents
That's
and
so
purposes.
cool. I love.
You mean it's an Unga and a Bunga?
And then here's the archer looking character.
Okay, this was the guy I thought was wearing the Drake armor because of this part of the clip. That is the exact orientation of the cloak of the Drake armor, but now seeing it in live action doesn't look like the same. It doesn't look like the Drake armor at all.
So I want to use this opportunity to transition us to the next little topic about the world. So we just experienced what was called Limfeld. I'm not 100% clear on if Limfeld is the entirety of the region that we will be experiencing throughout the entirety of Nightreign, or if that was specifically the section that we just spent for the 3-headed dog boss. I want to call him Cerberus. Gladius, there it is. as we see in this trailer, there are many biomes and things that are going to happen. This felt like the Limgrave adjacent biome, right? And so I'm thinking that with each night boss, we are going to have a completely different section of kind of
100%.
Elden Ring biome, right? Which is
Yeah.
incredibly exciting because that makes me feel like this is less of a procedural generation type of thing and more of like we can learn these maps in such a way. Yes, there will be some shuffling, but like we'll know, like for instance, we found out that like the chapels here like are places to up your flasks, or certain
Yeah.
buildings are places where you're going to fight 3 or 4 mini bosses, like the castles, right, that feel like the like Glennon Heights castle showed up and there was a mini boss
Yeah.
there, you know.
And then when we were playing with Jacob on that last day, he was kind of the group leader when it came to where we were going because he knew were specific types of drops. So we didn't know what we were going to get, but we knew it would be a magic drop or we knew we'd get a bleed drop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe that'll be happening. But then also just within the core game, like, are we going to see a lake map? Are we going to see a volcano map? Are we going to see Khalid map? Will we
For
go
sure.
to the Undercity? Are they going to bring in Shadow of the
Yeah.
Eldtree regions? Are they going to bring stuff from other Bloodborne, Sekiro, Dark Souls, Demon Souls? Like
Oh
the
my god, we get
sky's the
some
So
limit.
I do
we get
not
some
think we'll
Ring
see
City.
anything from Bloodborne or anything from Demon Souls
Well,
because
yeah,
those are
that's true.
PlayStation properties.
That's true.
But
But maybe nods to him, like
yes,
if we get
homages.
if we get a sort of Victorian Gothic city section, like we're gonna be like, oh well, this is cool,
Yeah, or like maybe we go to the land of reeds that is potentially
mm,
inspired by Sekiro.
Let's go.
Totally.
Because we don't know, because like if this game has sustainability for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they can just keep adding to it. At some point, I would love to talk about like the strategy of developing this game in between larger products, because I think that's also a good conversation to have, especially with what's been happening recently with massive layoffs and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, this definitely feels like a sustainer between while they cook on whatever their next thing is, especially because they've expressed that they aren't going to do Elden Ring 2 right away, and which I think is actually the smart move, even though obviously
There's no plans for Elden Ring 2. They said it over and over again.
Yeah,
I mean,
I do think at some
while
point
they
we will
say
get
there's no
an
plan,
Elden Ring 2.
there's
Or
I'm
no
telling
way
you
we're
right
not
now
getting-
that
Yeah.
I'm just saying what the devs themselves
no.
have
Oh, no.
stated.
I'm well aware of their
There's
statements.
just
I'm saying
no
at some
way.
point we'll get an Elden Ring 2.
I
They're
will
not
not.
gonna get
There's no fake news in the Neon Gaming dimension.
Hey,
It's
no,
not, not fake news.
is-
This is just facts. The amount
No,
of
I've read-
money they made off of fucking
Yeah.
Elden Ring,
Yeah.
there's no
I've
way
read,
they're not doing it again.
I've read the same
the
article
power-
for sure.
Yeah. The power of profit opens all doors, as we've
Yeah.
learned.
Exactly.
Obviously, yeah.
But like to talk about like economically why this project makes sense, a couple things. A, we're reusing assets that they've already paid to develop, like instead of like starting from scratch, and game mechanics. B, like usually when a studio starts a game, it's a very core group, and then as the game expands, you bring in more teams. There's a way to get that B team or that C team, instead of laying them off, you give them a side project that they can work on where they've already been in those games' guts and redesigning it to be something different. You're creating a new avenue of income and revenue, I should say, where now you have a roguelike games of service that can bring in money to the studio 6 months down the line, a year down the line, 2 years down the line, depending on how sustainable that games of service is. And we've already seen that FromSoft has taken their earnings from Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree, plus Sony investments and others, to reinvest in the studio. So I hope this becomes a model for other large publishers like Sony. Instead of creating a separate SKU of Concord, for example, why don't you take an existing franchise and try to adapt that into, like, we could have gotten a Last of Us 2 multiplayer game that was more modeled after this. I think about the survival mode in the Tomb Raider series. That
Oh yeah.
different ways to be creative about how you use assets that you've already paid for, and use teams that you want to keep on, because every time you let go of a team, you lose that talent, you lose that experience, you lose all that troubleshooting knowledge that they've had. I think if this game is successful, it might be a big wake up call to a lot of studios. I don't think the big publishers will listen because they're interested in weird shit like AI and
Yeah.
NFTs and like they want easy money. They don't really invest in
Yeah.
the hard money. But I would argue that if this is a hard money, I feel like it's more sustainable and it's an easier bet than starting something from scratch.
Well, and
This is more common.
anytime you keep
It-
a team together, they learn how to work together better, and
Yeah.
you know, like and learn how to. I mean, this is FromSoft has a proprietary engine that they use, right? Or is it Unreal? No, they use their own engine. And yeah, I think they use their
I think
own
so.
engine. And so that means like on one, it's a versatile thing. They can bring in Dark Souls bosses like we've already seen in previews, because those assets are running in the same engine. You know what I mean? They just need to upres them for whatever. And like yeah, and then the team gets more experience. Not to mention like the community. There's a hunger for it. You know what I mean? So it's like it's amazing. It's giving new life to a game while they cook on whatever beautiful horrific fantasy game that they craft next.
The sort of practice of keeping people at the studio is a lot more common in Japan. Like if you
Totally.
look
Yeah.
at Nintendo, and half the fucking team that worked on like the original Legend of Zelda are still working at Nintendo
Yeah.
because they have this sort of idea of keeping people working on the games. You keep people in the company, they're lifers, and therefore you have the same level of quality in every game because you're working from experience, people who've been there and done it before. And so doing this like I'm doing the keeping a team busy, working with existing assets, working with what they've built from scratch, you're just all you're doing is you're just getting so much money out of one franchise or one IP and keeping everybody busy and funded and moving on to while you're starting up the slow period of your next project. And I think this is like I've heard people say, "Oh, it's a bit of a money grab," and I think I don't know. When we're watching studios shut down because you build up the American build up, and then fire everyone now that we've launched everything except for
Right.
like 20 people, and then oh, guess what? We got our game going. Let's hire everybody back a year later, but like
It's
it's all new
absurd.
people.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
It's
absurd.
insane.
Just because
This
it's a
is
money
perfect.
grab doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Just because it's a
No.
money grab doesn't mean it's strategic or tactical. This is like some of the smartest. Like when we saw this game a few months ago in that trailer, we were like, "What the fuck?" Like, and now that it's dropped, I'm like, my impressions of Avowed were hurt because I couldn't stop thinking about this game during the early release because I just wanted to play this game more. And I think this is going to be one of the games of 2025.
It will.
And I'm wondering, like, because the in the video game world, all the other studio publishers are like 5 to 10 years behind trends. But this is a game that's taking a bunch of different trends: the Souls-like trend, the rogue-like trend, the battle royale trend, the games of service trend, and mashing them up in a way that's really, really smart. But I think stays true to the philosophy of FromSoft and the core identity of Elden Ring in a way that's really, really smart. Also, Gage, I just looked it up. Yes, FromSoft uses an in-house engine called the Souls engine.
There
It
you go.
powered Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and Sekiro. Elden Ring runs on an enhanced version of
That's
this
hot.
in-house engine.
That's hot.
Nice. Yeah, I think like if there's one company that I have the faith in to utilize this type of gaming structure correctly, I think FromSoft has demonstrated that they are that company for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine instead of getting Anthem, we got a Mass Effect roguelike.
Yeah,
Games of service.
exactly. Yeah.
Why not? Here's my question. All right, is Majora's Mask a money grab?
Yeah, exactly.
Is Fallout New Vegas a money grab?
Is
a
pirate
bad
pirate Yakuza in Hawaii?
These look. I'm just saying, just simply saying, oh, that's a money grab, right? Is just so ridiculous. Like, what is wrong with someone creatively putting themselves in a box? We have assets to work with. We could tell our own story and refine everything that defines this in a way that's reworkable and fresh. What is wrong with coming out with something like that, do we not want to play these games? We played Nightreign, and everyone loves the other two games that I just mentioned. They're absolute classic video games, reusing assets and using the B team to work on something creative. That is such a fucking amazing way to use your resources in a way that could make you money and make the gamers happy. And I really believe Nightreign is just even though it's like the multiplayer fun version of Elden Ring, will also be just as much of a hit as these games, honestly, this year.
I mean, that's a conversation. That's a bigger conversation when it comes to the concept of gamer entitlement, because there's a lot of times when, like, if a sequel's using the same assets, or the character climbs the same way, or heavens forbids it's the same looking puddle, like, gamers get all freaked out, and but they also complain about the cost of games and how games take too long, and you can't live in both fucking worlds.
Can't have the cake and eat the cake. Yeah. Come on.
Studios need to be smarter about cutting down costs and cutting down time. And I think it was it Ubisoft? There was one big publisher that basically said, we're going to stick to all our games are going to use this engine, and all their studios are going to communicate with each other and use their expertise. So, like, if Studio A is making an RPG, but they're using assets they need from Studio B that made an FPS, they're going to talk to each other. And that type of synergy just makes sense, especially when the more bigger you get.
Yeah,
I believe that was Frostbite engine in EA. EA was forcing all of their people to use Frostbite, despite people not liking Frostbite.
Yeah,
but
that's a bad solvency case, because Frostbite kind of sucked as an engine.
Yeah. But the going back to what you were saying, like, is it a money grab? I think where these people are coming from is they see it as a service game. Like, it looks like, it portrays like it's a service game, even though we know
it's not.
It's not a service game. It's just taking those formats, those style of games, and creating something new and fresh. And I think what I love the most about this is it's player versus engine. And it's, it's cooperative players versus engine. And there's nothing I fucking love more than playing video games with my friends where I'm not fighting my friends.
100%.
And that's just drives me nuts. Like, I don't want to be
fighting 13-year-olds on Fortnite.
Or fighting random 13-year-olds or whatever. Or absolute sweats. Just totally just trolling you.
So,
but no,
I've been thinking about this, actually, James, because they've talked about this is going to be focused on PvE, but I also think, like, I love the chaos of, like, an invasion happening when you got a group of 3 in Elden Ring. Or I even thought about, like, a more battle royale area where you have a bigger map and you have 3 groups of teams and the map's getting smaller, so when you start you're not going to bump into each other, but as the map gets smaller, as the resources shrink, suddenly you might have to contend with each other. And do you fight each other, or do you wait to kill the boss and then fight each other? I don't think we're going to get that with this game, but I have thought about, like, that sort of, like,
it could be a mode. It could be a mode.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not wrong.
It would be an interesting additive idea that brings a little bit more chaos and randomness. But I also
the weaker aspects of multiplayer in Souls games are PvP, because there's just these weird little issues, these glitches. Like, there's several times where you'll hit an enemy and he won't respond, and then suddenly he's killed you, or some bullshit because of weird latencies, like where you were in his world and where he is in your world is not matching up. And it just drives me nuts, because half the time you feel like you're doing okay and you're not. And
there's certain areas where you just get griefed because you're in, like, one area with all the PvPers. I think that happened to me in Dark Souls 1, where, like, I haven't played 3 yet, but Dark Souls 1, there was that castle area, like, midway through, where, like, it was almost I almost had to turn off fucking online because I just could not get to the boss.
That's the one. That same Knight faction is active in Dark Souls 3. It's great. Dark Souls 3 is so good.
I definitely think that this game has a lot of longevity in front of it, and I think the community's going to eat it up, and it's, it'll get chewed up by streamers and all that stuff. And then, also an interesting little thing that I kind of forgot about was this this hooded lady figure that we see that some have speculated looks like the Firekeeper in Dark Souls, and the fact that FromSoft might weave in a little bit of lore into this game in a way that is unexpected and even more obtuse than the way that they do in the regular RPGs.
We've already seen Dark Souls throughout the game. Like even in
Yeah.
the closed network test, we fought the Centipede
The Nameless
Demon, which
King.
is
Oh, and the Centipede Demon.
the
Yeah,
Centipede
exactly.
Demons from Dark Souls 1. Took me
Yep.
a while to figure it out. I was like, I know this guy. I've fought this guy before. But yeah, he's in the Lake of Fire down in
Yep.
in the
Yeah.
where down, Lost Izalith, where all the
I
demons
did-
live.
I didn't make that connection because I crushed that centipede demon so quickly that it was like blip out of my brain.
Nice.
That's so funny. But yeah, so here's my question for you guys, and I do want to kind of wrap this up here in a second.
Yeah.
But a couple of things: do we fight an armored core at some
No.
point in this game?
No.
Yeah, that was when Kind of Funny did their impressions conversation. That was something that Tim was bringing up, and I don't think they're gonna do that. I think if FromSoft was focused on the revenue and the money of games of service, they would definitely do that. But I don't think that's what this game is about.
No.
So
No,
I
I
don't
know.
think even within its core universe, I don't think you're going to get much crossover.
I would
from
like-
other stuff.
Well,
I would like a nod to armored core in some way,
No.
like a raven skin for one of your armors or for one of your
or-
people or something like that. You
Or
know what I
a
mean?
Gazu, a mini boss that's kind of a Gazu, or like a Rusty
Yeah,
type situation.
sure, something like that.
It's not
Just a
happening.
hint. Just a hint.
No, I
Go ahead.
don't see it, but I do see stuff like an homage to like Solaire or
Yeah,
Sigma,
sure.
or
Right. Dark
Catalina,
Souls.
right? Dark Souls, keeping like the soul stuff. I can even see homages to like Sekiro, Bloodborne, and Demon Souls
Right.
if they're different enough. You know what I mean?
I think they
Like,
will be.
it's-
Yeah.
You look at them, you're like, oh, that
Dude.
kind of looks like the Hunter, or that kind of reminds me of like maybe there's a doll sort of outfit for your
Sure,
character
sure.
that's
Dude.
not.
That'd be
You
so
know,
sick.
Let me
That'd be so sick.
let me get. All I'm saying is let me get a
Duchess
a-
fucking
well,
doll. Come
I'm
on.
saying let me get a
Sorry.
giant knight. Let me get a giant knight named Rusty, who's really fast and has
Taking
just
my headphones
slightly mech looking features. You know what I'm saying?
Here's
Come on,
a-
how would that not be so sick, Jacob?
You could get a knight.
love that.
I would
You
love
can
it.
get a knight.
You know I would
that's not
love that, but
Rusty.
it's not gonna
He's
happen.
a little more.
You're
rocky,
fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And his name is Havel.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh
There
yeah,
go.
you know, Havel, of course.
I'd
Yeah,
rather
like-
have a Nicki Minaj skin for my Duchess.
Oh my god! You've got your Unga Bunga character that like basically has like this
Havel.
giant weapon,
Yeah.
Has
creates a giant
BBLs.
stone pillar. That's
Yep.
a perfect Havel skin right there, right?
He's not
There you
wrong.
go.
He's not wrong.
Love it.
I mean,
Yeah,
give
love
us a fucking Artorias Wilder skin, dog.
Yes, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Come on.
Oh, totally.
Give it to us.
Totally. I praise the sun.
I think we'll see stuff like that.
No. I fully expect seeing some Dark Souls, but like, dude, what? All right, if we see one amygdala in this game, what do I get? What do I get? You know what I'm saying? Someone gonna buy me saltwater taffy or something? Because that's my bet.
I want
There's some
We're gonna have one amygdala in the game. Also, if there was an armored core thing in this game, it would have to be equivalent to like the cow level in Diablo. Just like the most ridiculous portal that you have to find in the most rare circumstance.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and then
That's all I got.
It would be cool. Like just somehow, I want a unique iteration of the moonlight greatsword. In some way or
that'd be
another.
sick. That'd be sick. Also, just quick thought. So like we only saw certain weapons in this build. I know there was a couple times where I found something like really rare, really different. I fully expect the rest of the roster of weapons across Elden Ring, and even I can see not just enemies but items and weapons from Dark Souls making it into this game in some form, even if
That's true.
it's just like a easy port, or a simple version of it. So like per biome, I could see there being like more of a chance toward different weapon sets and stuff. So I just think right now, like what's fun about this is that we're in the imagination land of what this game could be. It's a Schrodinger's cat of this
100%.
game. Like what's in the box? that's alive and what's in the box that's dead, right? We have no idea, but it's just really fun. We can imagine what we're gonna see. I'm just so excited. Just real quick, what's your craziest prediction of what you're gonna see or what will happen in this game? For me, absolutely, like you just said, the Izalith thing. So let's see that big ass tree boss in there. You know what I mean? Where the floor
Nice.
falls out and you have to stand
Yeah,
in
the
a
little
certain
ball
spot.
sacks you have to
Yeah,
kill.
yeah. Give me a ball sack fight.
Uh,
Dark Souls
I
1, baby.
think I think that they're gonna have some fun with us with the different biomes that you're exploring. And I think we're gonna get a full blown death blight swamp.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Just to fucking hard mode wreck all of us.
Dude, if
You know?
anything, like a poison swamp would be rad. I would love that.
Definitely.
How about you guys?
Ooh.
Something I've been thinking about, because it's only like right now the runs are 3 days, right? And then you beat the Night Lord. But like we only got the highest level I got to was when I beat the Night Lord, and that was 14. And I think when Jacob and Gage and I, when we got to that third day, I think the highest we got to was 12. So will there be like cumulative runs on top of that 3 day run that like are more like tiers? Was that first 3 day run tier 1, and then the next 3 days is a little bit harder, so do we get like larger, more bigger bosses, like the tree bosses, or like the corrupted worms? I know we fought one type of dragon. Will we get more dragons? And then I also interesting that day 3 there were a couple references to that fight. That door looked very familiar from Shadow Verdtree. That battlefield with the little Cerberus dude, that bitch, that looked a little bit like I forget the guy's name, but the Pallid Radon. They looked a little bit like his field. So are we going to get some more of that, some more hints? What does that mean? Is there going to be more of a story or and lore that we can dig into? You know, that's what my prediction is.
One thing that's been rumored.
Mean?
And James, I'll let you get to yours in a second. But one thing that's been, I don't know if it was rumored or if it was talked about maybe to the people who went and previewed it and then relayed it, because I think I heard it maybe in Vati's video about this. But it sounds like there is a Night Lord that we are going and fighting 8 of these bosses, and then I believe there is a big bad of some kind that is like the whatever that cumulative thing is. So I don't. Yeah, it seems like maybe there will be a sort of ultimate, showdown of some kind. Which, man, I'm frothing and excited about it. James, what about you as far as crazy predictions?
I think we will get. I won't be a boss. I think we'll get homages to some of the classic characters, whether it's Solaire, whether it's Lautrec, the Sigmar,
Onion Knight,
Sigmar,
yeah.
Sigmund,
and but yeah, no, I think that we'll see those in the forms of skins. It may not be like 1-to-1, but they will be clear and obvious homages.
A jar person like skin.
So,
oh my
I
god!
don't know if you've noticed this, but when you if you went into the relics screen or whatever, you equipped your relics, and you go to sell, there's a certain treasure chest down a hallway that you can look at, but you can't interact with. But in front of it is a jar covered in like gold coins. So clearly some form of merchant that you can sell to. So we will see jar characters. I'm sure we're gonna see jar enemies, maybe even jar bosses.
There you go. Hell yeah. All right. Well, I think that was a really awesome discussion. Obviously, there's a lot more to talk about on this subject, and we will. When this game comes out, we will be doing some gamers gaming streams, as well as probably a full review and then not spoiler cast of this game, but like a full breakdown of our experience with this game whenever that happens. And happy, of course, to have you guys back on to check in on that when the time comes. But let's just run down and give a quick final thoughts, just a quick little 60-second sum up of what you're thinking and what you're excited about for this game. Just any little final thoughts as you go. Arturo, why don't you start us out?
Sure, I'm really excited. I wish I was playing this game right now. My prediction is that this game is going to be one of the games of 2025. I'm kind of mad at whoever got it for the fantasy draft, because I think it's going to get at least high 80s,
Yeah.
maybe even mid 90s. I'm excited to play it. I love the idea that we're going to get to play with friends. It's going to be easier to play with friends. Yeah, definitely this is going to be a game we're going to be streaming, and you're going to hear Stoned Ass Arturo make an ass of himself.
Hey, me too. James, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, no, I said it before. The aesthetic of playing with friends against enemies is just way more appealing than trying to struggle and fight against enemy players. So this game has just managed to capture everything that I'm kind of fascinated about. I want to play a Souls game. I want to play a Souls game with friends, and I'm fine with playing fast. We're gonna have a blast doing it, and yeah. I'm anxious. I'm anxious to play more. I didn't get enough. My 9 hours was not enough.
You're right. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I as we're talking about this and I'm looking at screenshots and shit, I'm like, fuck, why did I not have this game right this moment? You know, and yeah, I think this is a really cool remix on the Souls experience. And I recently got into Slay the Spire, and this is giving me some of those. I mean, you know, roguelikes in general, but this is giving some of those ideas of just like I can't wait to just dive in with different builds and different you know, like, oh, this is going to be all about poison this run, and really start to like learn how to create the character that you want for each run, you know, and you know, of course, rolling with the punches that the world delves to you. So can't wait to see what else this game has up its sleeve. I know this that we just scratched the surface with the network test. And I'm also interested to see how this plays solo. I know that they are not scaling the world if you're solo, so it's going to be extra hard mode. But like it'll be interesting. We weren't able to do that during the network test because you have to play offline. But I'm very interested to see what that feels like even. And yeah, and then of course to squad up with y'all and just be playing constantly. It's going to be a good time. Jacob, give us the final thoughts and close us out.
Arturo, can you just correct him really quick?
I was going to say that there is talk about duos on top of threes. They've already said that there's enough player feedback that they are looking and doing two player and 3-player.
Very cool. Very
Thank
cool.
you. And I've noticed that when someone like accidentally disconnects from your game and you're stuck into duos, that the game does seem to scale because we were destroying shit.
Yeah.
So I think solo should be just as difficult as 3-player. Just obviously you can't res yourself, which adds an extra difficulty to it.
No doubt.
I am very excited for the game. Yes, I picked it for the fantasy draft. Yes, I'm excited for all them points. I love Elden Ring. I love From Software games. So, of course, I'm going to be simping hard for this. But I just feel like, again, it's just a brilliant way to reuse the tools that you already have at your disposal and to creatively work with limitations. I think that they have done that in the best possible way with this game. From the little bit that we played, again, my mind is swimming with ideas and thoughts and possibilities. I'm excited to really dig in, see what the future holds in terms of what we haven't seen in the game, the characters or classes, if you will, the biomes, the weapons, and then just being able to say, hey, Arturo, you want to play Nightreign? And we could just play it. Once it's in my hands, dude, I'm going to be so fucking excited. We all love these roguelike games and these battle royale experiences and these multiplayer times with each other. We've recently kind of all found each other. We've been gaming together, hanging out, and this game is just going to be another tool in our belt and another way to like kick some ass together. And I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you again, Miyazaki, for everything that you've added to this world. And thanks to everyone for watching or listening to this podcast or any of our stuff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick before we get out of here, I want to give you guys a chance to plug any of your stuff. James, how about you? Where can we find you on the internet?
I stream Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/BLP Entertainment. And if you want to follow me on the socials, I'm at ButtLordPrimus on Blue Sky.
Classic. Fantastic. Yeah, check out his streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Arturo, what about you?
Yeah, Arturotron or Arturotron Rule Bartender. I don't individually stream right now, but you can find me in the Kind of Funny live chat making terrible dad jokes and 10-year puns, you cowards. And also, Neon Pocket and its affiliates have been asking me to come in and do some fun streams like today, talking about Nightreign this Friday at 7 p.m. Central. So I want to say it's 8 p.m. Uh, my time Central and 6 p.m. Pacific. I'll be with Mr. Hawks and his partner on the
Cool.
Storytellers podcast. They did something cool. They sent me a list of video game characters, and I picked cocktails that pair with those characters, and those
Love that.
guys are gonna make the cocktails and drink them, and they're gonna see if they can figure out what character is which cocktail. Like they don't have names of the cocktails or order, it's just the ingredients and instructions. And then next week I'll be back with you all talking about Avowed, which I've been playing through the early release, and hopefully I'll have it beat so I can give you guys what I think about Obsidian's latest semi-open world RPG.
Hell yeah, definitely. Arturo's a recurring guest, I would say, at this point on the channel. So look out for him here anytime he's here. We're happy to have him. And yeah, we'll do some cocktail stuff with you too. I have some ideas, some Pokemon related ones, a couple other ones. We're gonna do some fun stuff. So yeah, hell yeah. All right, y'all. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And if you are watching us live on twitch.tv/Neon Pocket Dimension, you're already in the right place. But if not, you can find all our content on youtube.com/@Neon Gaming Dimension. And then our non-gaming nerdy stuff at youtube.com/@Neon Pocket Dimension. And for Jacob's awesome comedy and culture stuff and drinking podcast, The Odd Valley Tavern, that is youtube.com/Odd Valley Studios.
Yeah.
Right on. Hell yeah.
Yeah, this Friday we're doing twitch.tv/OMJesus. Right after these guys do their stream, pretty much, we're going to do another Odd Valley Tavern. So join us. Follow, drink with us.
Yeah.
We're going to do cocktails as well. It's a night of cocktails between all our fun channels and friends.
Love that.
Jacob might have reached out to a cocktail expert on some drink choices.
Dude, I already tried it. It's delicious, but y'all figure that out on Friday.
Hell yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on Neon Gaming Dimension, and we will check you next time with more Avowed impressions next week.